Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite fall fragrances for women. So these are the fragrances that I find to just work absolutely beautiful as the weather goes warmer to cooler. If you get an occasional hot day, these fragrances are still going to work fine and they'll carry you well into the cold, almost winter weather as well. The reason that I pick these fragrances is I find them to be really beautifully constructed. I work as a perfumer, and so the technicality and composition of a perfume is really important to me in my selection. That means these fragrances have good projection and good longevity so that you're not the only person smelling your fragrance, and so that it doesn't disappear after 15 minutes. But with that technical structure aside, these are also just beautifully crafted fragrances so that you smell beautiful and that you feel beautiful. Fall is my favorite season, and so for fashion and fragrance, and these are also just some of my all-time favorite fragrances, especially because summer isn't the friendliest fragrance season. I get really excited for fall when I can finally smell these beautiful fragrances in my collection on me again. If you like fragrance videos, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you end up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up. The first fragrance I'm going to be talking about is By the Fireplace by Maison Margiela. This is such a beautiful fragrance. I first discovered it when I was on Sebastian's channel, and I kind of slept on it a while, and then I met this girl and she was wearing it and she smelled incredible. I met her at a party before all this bummer COVID stuff happened, and I just really made an impression on me, and I didn't know her really well, but I went up to her and I complimented her fragrance, and we ended up becoming very good friends. Her name is Amelia. She watches my videos, so it's a little shout out to her. But that aside, it's a fragrance that really gets you noticed. It smells stunning. It's the kind of fragrance that I'm sure will get you lots of compliments. It has notes of Gaiac wood, which is woody, but it also has a really beautiful fruity raspberry facet, and that's enveloped in a really lovely vanilla and a Peru balsam, which smells very vanillic as well, but it has this kind of to me, cherry Coke vibe to it. So it's a little bit fizzier than your average vanilla. It's a little bit fruitier than your average vanilla. And it just smells so gorgeous. It's warm. Again, I could smell it on her, so it has good projection. And it's just a really great choice for fall if you like really warm, balsamic, slightly fruity scents. The next spot on my list is a tie of two fragrances from the same house, Hermes. And the first fragrance is Ambre Narguile, which is a vanilla tobacco fragrances mixed with a melange of spices. Something about the tobacco note, it's very sweet, very fruity, mixed with the cinnamon, gives me a real apple pie feeling, kind of like with a fresh apple pie coming out of the oven, and you smell all that warmth in the air, the warm sweetness of the vanilla mixing with the cinnamon. I think really the smoke here is more textural. It has such a warm, wafting feeling. And again, it's Hermes. It's still such an elegant fragrance. If there was to be an apple pie smelling fragrance done elegantly, it would come from Hermes. And then tied in the same spot is Ambre de Merveilles, also by Hermes, more in their mainstream line, not in their Hermescence line like Ambre Narguile, but still such a beautiful fragrance. And this is a flanker to Eau de Merveilles, which is supposed to be like kind of a salty, more aquatic fragrance, and then they add this beautiful golden sweet amber to it, and both of these fragrances are so incredible. The reason I decided to kind of give them this same slot is that if you're in a store, you should smell both of them and kind of decide which Hermes amber is the right one for you. For the next fragrance on my list, we go to the house of Dior, which does so many beautiful fragrances. This is a classic Dior fragrance that came out in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, but kind of in that time, the turn of the millennium. And it's Dior Hypnotic Poison, which starts with notes of coconut and plum. And actually in perfumery, these notes sound super different, right? But what really defines them in perfumery is the lactones, those milky notes. Plum and coconut both have really milky notes, and that's the part of this fruit that you're smelling in this fragrance. And then all of that, we have Gaiac wood again, which we talked about in the Maison Margiela fragrance. It's a very fruity wood. It's a very fruity, creamy wood. So again, it's working really well with the milky notes from the fruits on top, and then enveloped in vanilla and it is so classic. Again, this fragrance has been on the market now for 20 years, and yet it doesn't smell dated at all, and it's really such a beautiful fragrance with real character, which is something, you know, we kind of sometimes lack in new releases. Hypnotic Poison is a flanker to Poison, but it absolutely has its own character. It could have been a pillar fragrance on its own. I don't feel like it calls back too much to Poison. So if you don't like Poison, or if you do, it's still something that you should give it a chance, kind of all on its own. I personally love the little red apple bottle that it comes in. I think it looks so precious on my dresser. And again, just this could definitely be a signature scent. It really, I could see it being polarizing, but it has a strong signature, and yet I feel like everyone loves vanilla. Also a very complimented scent. Up next, we have Unknown Pleasures. When I worked as a sales associate at Tiger Lily, I kind of had access to every niche fragrance you could think of. It was really a wannabe perfumers at the time. You know, I hadn't been accepted even into perfumery school, and now I work for a perfume house. But at the time, all of this was still a dream, and so I was always smelling everything, and it was such a time. And I would always go back to Unknown Pleasures, and when I was working there, regardless of any other fragrance in the store that I put on, Unknown Pleasures would always, always, always get me compliments from customers. They'd always ask what I was wearing. It would be this scent when customers came in, they'd be like, wow, this place smelled so good. It was me that smelled good because I was wearing Unknown Pleasures. And it was one of our most sold scents, so it's really widely beloved. So let's talk about the fragrance now. This fragrance, the vision behind it is you're supposed to be out on a foggy day listening to a Joy Division song called Unknown Pleasures, and you have an Earl Grey tea on one hand and a vanilla cone waffle in the other. So you have this mix of this dark Earl Grey tea with the bergamot as well, which gives a brightness kind of to contrast, and then this warm vanilla, and it's so good. It's a little bit gooey, but I think paired with the bergamot, it really keeps it from getting cloying, so it's just absolutely lovely. And so this balance is so interested. It keeps your nose really interested. Again, the projection, I love when a fragrance has good projection and other people can smell me, especially because I feel like I have good fragrance taste, obviously this being my job. And so I also want to be able to smell my fragrance myself. It's such a bummer when after 15 minutes you don't smell yourself anymore, and you kind of feel like, well, why did I buy this bottle of perfume then? And so definitely, especially in fall, you know, when it's starting to get cold, you want something to feel comforting. This is the season I want to smell my perfume, and Unknown Pleasures absolutely delivers on that. For my last fragrance pick, we have Eau Duelle by Diptyqud, and this has been a long fragrance love for me. I think it topped my unisex fragrance love list for last year, and that's because for men or women, this to me is just an ultimate scent. It is so incredibly beautiful. I wear the Eau de Toilette, and it is a mix of, how do I even describe this scent? So there's a lot of tea notes like chai, note from this cardamom that's in the fragrance. You also have incense and then vanilla. So imagine like a really spicy black tea, like a chai or a Darjeeling and a Assam, you know, just whatever your favorite black tea is. It has a different melange of spices, so it kind of harkens back to different kinds of black tea, and then just like delicious vanilla, and it's so, so good. This fragrance is supposed to inspire you to travel. Again, it came out a while ago before COVID, and so, you know, one of the few ways we can travel now is through fragrance, as our options are more and more limited, but this fragrance really just transports you. It's very transportative. It really reminds me of a warm cup of tea, the way it just wafts up at you, so warm, with a mixture, again, of warm notes like vanilla and cooler spices. It's so beautifully constructed, and again, a big compliment getter. And just, even if it wasn't, it's one of those fragrances that is a work of art in itself. Please let me know what you've thought of this list. Let me know what you're wearing, what your favorite fall fragrances are. I'm really dying to hear from my fellow women watchers. If you're a guy watching this video, let me know if a special lady in your life wears any of these fragrances, what fall fragrances you like to smell on women. I'd love to know that. And thank you again so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. And if you do subscribe, I'm so appreciative. Have a lovely day. Bye.